I'm Donna Scudo. I want to thank you all for being here today. We think this is a really great opportunity. We want this to be a session for you, so please make it interactive. We do have an agenda, we do have topics that we feel are important and we want to cover, but we also want to answer your questions, meet your needs, and help you through any issues you might be having. So please feel free to raise your hand, ask questions, interrupt. We are not on a strict time frame. We're flexible. We want you to get the most out of this session that you possibly can. So please feel free to make use of our time and your time to the best to meet your needs. I'd like to do a few introductions, and then if we could just go around and everybody can tell us who they are and what departments they're from. This is a good chance for us to network with everybody. So from the Research Foundation Central Office, we have the Vice President for Human Resources, Kathleen.
Hello, Caggiano Sino. Come on, Tuffy.
And the new, Jenna is fairly new to the Research Foundation. Jenna Lair is the new Training Coordinator and Manager. So she's, this is her first visit to our campus, so we're happy to have her here. Christine Goff is from the Sponsored Programs HR Office. I'm sure you're all familiar with Chris. And same thing with Stephanie, who is also part of our HR leadership team. And both of them will be presenting today also. And if we can just go around the table briefly, and we'll start on this side.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tamara McMillan, and I am the new director for CSTEP.
Good morning, I'm Don Patterson, I'm the director of the Yellow Bound Program.
I'm Peter Reganti, I'm with the Sponsored Programs Office.
Good morning, I'm Darrell Farrell, I'm director of STEP Program.
Good morning, Jeanette Konzakowski from the Center for Development and Human Services.
Marcy Lynch from Sponsored Programs. Good morning, Marla Fulton from Center for Health and Social Research on campus.
Hi, Jessica Burke from SPO.
Carol Julian from SPO, upstairs.
I'm Chris Exner, I'm the director of the Speech Language Hearing Clinic.
Good morning, I'm John Slaughter from CDHS.
Good morning, I'm Jeremy Truskowski from CDHS in Albany.
No. Everyone, Anitra Wall from the Provost Office.
Thank you all for being here. Kathleen, did you want to?
Yeah, I would like to just say a few words. Thank you, Donna. So we came from Albany. We actually were here for a Leadership Academy tour yesterday at UB. So we just kind of stayed on, and Jen and I will be going back to Albany today. But we work very closely with Donna, with Stephanie, and with Chris. And we decided to take this program on the road. So this is really an important element for those of you who either are RF employees. Could you raise your hand if you're an RF employee? Great. And or if you supervise RF employees. Great. So there's, you know, we're a complicated system, right? So you try to explain to people like where you work and what you do, and sometimes the Research Foundation name comes in, sometimes it doesn't, because you relate to the campus you're working on and the good work in public health that many of you do with CDHS. So I say that, like Donna said, we really want to make this as interactive as we can. I have some cards when it comes time for the performance management piece around some employee relations issues that you maybe anonymously want to tell us you're struggling with, so we can use those as, and I'll just read them and we'll just kind of problem solve together. So today's session, like Donna said, we'd like to make it as interactive as we can, but it's actually one that's tried and true. We use it at Stony Brook, we use it at UAlbany, we do it live stream a couple times during our Learning Tuesday sessions. So this is really about, you know, sort of the basics of how we get to hire people, and then we'll go into some leadership development discussions later in the afternoon. And we're being filmed. Hello. And we're being filmed because Buffalo State College, through Peter and Donna, graciously said, you know what, this is a great idea so that we could maybe prepare other campuses for something like this, so we don't necessarily have to always go on the road. Now, when we do the employee relations piece, guess what? There's no camera on that one. So if you've got something you're struggling with, I don't think you want to be recorded. So we'll just do that privately. Any questions about today's objectives? We've got the agenda. And people know this building, I'm assuming, but there are bathrooms. If you go out the hall and all the way down on the right-hand side just before you exit, there are ladies' rooms and men's rooms. And Donna's got coffee and water and treats. And then, of course, we brought some RF swag, because that's what you do.
Frisbees, sunglasses, beach balls, and then some business planners for the business people in the room, so, and it's variety, so.
So it's, they're
just help
up here if
yourself
anybody wants
there's
it.
anything that you like there.
Okay. We do have another seat, let me think of it.
We can take mine.
Everybody's gonna just run right next to Jenna.
Okay, and with that, Donna, I'll sit down.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn it over to Chris and Steph, but I also wanna say, don't be intimidated by the recording, we can edit anything. So if there's conversations that, you know, you would prefer not to be in there or whatever, we can cut them, so please don't be intimidated by that. All right?
Good morning. I'm sorry I'm not starting off on the camera, Peter, but thanks again for being here. And I don't even have the agenda, but we're going to be talking about hiring in a few minutes. But I just wanted to get everybody familiar with the websites first. I think it's really important that you're looking at them and you know what's on them. So for our own sponsored program, thank you, for our own sponsored programs office at Buffalo State, we do a pretty good job of keeping this up to date. This is our news section, and we actually had like a calendar that's up to date. So if, we'll say if we had a snow day, I'm sure it would be streaming on there too. So if you came here and saw that, you know we wouldn't be available that day. But also, a lot of the forms that we're using and we're trying to push, or any of our policies and procedures, things like that, definitely take some time and take a look at this, okay? And the same goes for the Research Foundation's website. I think it's really important to take a peek every once in a while and see what's going on at the Research Foundation. This is all the latest news and exciting things that are going on that we are a part of. So I think it's good to look at it. And also here, policies, procedures, and forms. Everything that you need to know is on this website. And that's what we're referring back to when we're dealing with certain issues. Also, we're not here 24/7. So, if it's a Saturday and you think of something that, oh, I wonder what I am going to do about this, take a minute and look it up. I mean, just come to the website and search, and you can pretty much find anything. So, I think that's it for the websites. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was, I guess I'll probably come back to this. Hang on, let me get, Peter probably wants me in front of him.
It doesn't matter, I'll follow you, not to worry.
So, I just wanted to show you guys those real quick. I mean, who here actually looks at our website? How about ours?
I do.
Oh, good. That's really exciting. Great. Yeah, I mean, that's where we're constantly trying to refer you to. The other important piece with the website is for when you're approving time cards and all that kind of stuff that we're going to get into later, I mean, you have to actually log in there. You have a username and a password, so you have to be in there anyways. So you should already know where it's at and how to get in. But if you have any questions, let us know. So what all supervisors need to know? In regards to hiring, so we're looking at budgets, right? So if in your budget it says you want to hire, that you have to hire an employee, it does depend on what type of employee. There's summer employees, there's regular employees, there's student employees, which I'm sure you all know. That's what we're going back to make sure that that is what is actually, that needs to be done. So in regards to say, a lot of the times you guys are hiring students, okay? Well, students are a little bit easier usually. A lot of the times you already have someone in mind. So we're usually just reaching out to that person and getting them set up with paperwork and whatnot. It's a little bit different for when you're hiring a regular employee, a full-time regular employee, so we'll get to that in a minute. But I wanted to mention that some of you are more familiar with others, but we've been trying to roll out manager self-service, which is a electronic appointment and change form for a couple years, and we have started with some programs, but we're trying to get more and more people using this, because what that does is that form actually uploads into our Oracle business system, and that really does save a lot of time, and then I'm not bothering you for signatures. You can do it after hours if we're not in the office, you can sign off on things after work hours, and that routes through all of us, and then it gets uploaded into the system, and that really does save with a lot of errors as well, we've noticed, you know, like, I know if we put that in, a certain salary in that form, it's gonna end up in that system, and we're not having to, you know, check all the time all of our stuff as much. So it's really helpful. If you aren't using manager self-service and you see some forms come through, that's because we're trying to push it, but eventually we're hoping that you actually are the ones that are in control of submitting those forms to us, and then we're just, you know, pushing them through to upload.
Can I just ask, who is using manager self-service now? Anybody here? Any-
All of CDHS.
Yeah. Any plans to use it?
Yes, there is a
They just don't know it. Okay.
Well, what we've been doing is, for example, when Don had Ellen here, she was actually, instead of walking up change forms and appointment forms for their summer staff, she was trained how to go in the system and actually do them all herself, and I sat with her many times. So they're all set up to do it. So she's not here anymore, and there are only a couple of people, so they're, you know, tight on staff. So Chris and us now in HR, we have the ability to go in as that, you know, just start the form and kick it off. So that's what we're doing now for pretty much everybody. And so when you see like, oh, you have a form to approve, call us if you have a question, but that's most likely what it is, okay? It's what you've already asked us to do, it's just that we're trying to get that information and put it into the system.
Steph, can I just add that last night, I have to say I was watching TV and I had my phone next to me, and I got 3 forms processed through manager self-service by one of your co-PIs, who is fairly new to the campus, first year as a project director, and she submitted, I think, 8 forms last night, and it must have took her less than 10 minutes, because they just came through quickly. So it's not hard, and it's, hopefully, you can do it whenever you want. Not that I want you all to be doing work at home at 8:30 at night, trust me. But it's flexible around your schedule, so whatever works for you, the system is available.
Yeah, I think it's, like I said, even with the websites, it's important, we're, you know, after we're gone for the day, and you're finally have some time to look at stuff, it's important that, you know, you have access to all that stuff. Okay, so, job descriptions. We've been cracking down the last few years on making sure that everybody has a job description, including employees. You know, it doesn't have to be long, but we want something in everybody's file. Some of the reasons why job descriptions are important is they set measurable performance goals for training and employee development. When you're wanting to recognize and reward employees, say if somebody's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, you want to refer back to that job description, maybe in a discipline situation, that, you know, this isn't being done. Say if you had an employee who was off for a while and they had to return to work, and their job description says they have to lift 40 pounds. Well, guess what? They say they can't come back because they can only lift 10 pounds. That's when that comes into play. So it's really important that that job description has all that information in it, and that we have one on file for everybody. The other thing is, we really want to make sure that we're classifying people correctly, either exempt or non-exempt. Back in the day, being exempt was, you know, a perk, it was a promotional thing, and we're really trying to get away from that. The best way to handle employees really is making them non-exempt, and we keep seeing that more time and time again. So we want to just kind of change the mindset and how we think about that. Chris will talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. The other thing is we want to make sure that we keep the job description flexible, and that a more wide-ranging description is easier to maintain, as it does not need to be modified with every change in duty, okay? Every little change, we don't want to have to keep going back to change that description. So if you need help with your descriptions, let us know. I mean, they aren't easy, you know, we can do it as a team. So that's why our office is here. So in regards to the search process, I'll go through that real quick. So if you have an employee that you wanted to hire, first of all, for students, we can help you recruit students, okay? We have access to post things on job boards and stuff, so if you do need help finding summer students, let us know. But for regular employees, there's a process. We use that job description and we put it on our recruitment form. We route it for signatures, And then we use our applicant tracking website that we, been using for, I don't even know how many years now, 10, probably 10 years, I don't even know, but, so everything is electronic. I then use that description and I do all the advertising for the, position as well. So, you'll assemble a search committee, and that committee will help you with doing the interviews and, weeding out the applicants. So, we're kind of hands-off in some of that. We're available to help, like if you need help along the way, but we really count on you to form a committee and to, help you find the best person for that position. Usually, we leave a job up for a couple weeks, so if not more, we keep looking to see how many applicants we have. Jeremy just was, he's maybe not the best example, but not him, his search. He was awesome and he's doing a great job, but it's pretty funny. He's just like, it's just taking a little, he's like, does it always take this long? And I'm like, honestly, really, we're a lot faster than the state, but sometimes, you don't get the best pool of applicants, you have to go back to the drawing board, but that's, part of the stuff that we help you guys with. So we want to make sure that we're being fair with treatment of all applicants and employees, okay? We are an equal opportunity employer, and it's very important that we keep that in mind, and that not only for your employees day to day, but also for anybody applying to work for us. And when you do finally come up with the person that you would like to hire, our office reviews those people, reviews the person, and then we make sure it's in range with the salary and the title and the budget and all that good stuff. And if it's good to go, you're able to offer the person the job, and it's usually contingent on a background and reference check, okay? We want to make sure that we're consistent with that, so we do that for everybody. And that's usually a 2 to 3 day turnaround, so it's not, that part isn't long at all. I think that's pretty much it. Let me make sure here, because I was rambling, sorry. Can you think of anything I'm missing?
Stephanie, the process you're describing, is that for full-time employees?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you have a permanent position,
Right.
okay, if it's temporary, if it's a 6-month position or less, we really, aren't trying to get into the whole search
Right.
process. But if it's a permanent position and that's in your budget, we want you to get the best person in there, and the best way to do that is by doing a search, So yeah, that's for those types of things. You don't have to worry when you're doing, like, if you have someone in mind for summer, or that happens. You work with kids or students, people on campus, and then they end up helping you. So we understand that kind of stuff, but we gotta cover ourselves and you. Sorry. I'm trying not to be on the camera. I'm really not. I love the camera. But, is that it, Chris? Sorry. Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Did you think of something I'm missing, Chris?
No.
So I think that's it for this slide.
Am I next?
I think. Were you gonna do this one?
I can. So, Stephanie mentioned that, we're really looking at the proper classification of employees. And there was a mindset that we would promote people into an exempt position, and that's not the way it works at all. The classification is really based upon the job responsibilities. And in this climate, the thought process is actually the opposite, that we're all not exempt unless we can exempt them from overtime requirements primarily. So here's a few things that are different between exempt and non-exempt employees. So our non-exempt salaried employees are really hourly employees. They're paid by the hour. They are eligible for overtime. So their timesheets are critical in determining whether or not they're eligible for any overtime in a particular week. So anything over 40 hours worked in a week, they're eligible for time and a half. Now we have 2 different standard work weeks here. Some employees are at a 37.5 hour and some are at a 40. So for a 37.5-hour employee, if they work more than 37.5 hours in a week, they are compensated at straight time for the additional 2.5 hours up to 40. And then anything over 40 would be at time and a half. So, but it does go by the week, not by the pay period. So we want to be careful there when we're approving time sheets. And non-exempt employees would record their time in quarter-hour increments, where our exempt employees, as you know, it's by exception. So if they use an accrual, they put down, I use vacation for 1 day or a quarter of a day, or whatever the case may be. Exempt employees submit monthly timesheets, and non-exempt submit bi-weekly. The overtime provisions, as we talked about, come into play for non-exempt employees, and non-exempt employees are eligible for or required to take a meal period after 6 hours worked. They get a half-hour lunch unpaid. So that's important to record on the timesheets as well. Let's see.
I have a question.
Yes.
So let's say that someone works 3 hours extra, I guess beyond the 40, and so the following week, can they not come in 3 hours or come in 3 hours late, or is it not
They can, if
advisable?
we like it to be done within that same pay period.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Is it the red button? Thank you. This is probably more Donna's area, but I'll take a stab at it if you like. Okay. So, when we talk about classification of employees, there's also a number of projects I know that use independent contractors or consultants, and there are certain qualifications for that. Did I flip this?
No.
Yeah, I did. And there is a test, there's a categories of evidence test, if you will, to help you determine whether or not they can be classified as a consultant or if they should be classified as an employee. And with the independent contractor, they really need to be set up with their own business. There's certain things that, are telltale signs of an independent contractor. They have their own insurances and that sort of thing, so they wouldn't be covered under our workers' compensation insurance, for example. So this is another area that we want to be sure that we're classifying people properly. Donna?
So the issue here is that the IRS feels that employers sometimes categorize people as independent contractors so they don't have to pay them benefits. They don't like that. There's severe penalties for doing that. So they do have the IRS categories of evidence. It's 20 questions that ask you about the employer-employee relationship. We mandate that form be filled out before paying any independent contractor. So if we are audited, we can at least document that we've gone through a due process to make sure that we've correctly categorized the individual. There's been several changes over the last year in the employee classification, how you classify exempt, non-exempt. They're cracking down on the independent contractors. So we're just trying to help you make sure that we do it correctly. Not only does it impact us as the business, we can be penalized, but it can also affect that employee. If they have to pay back income taxes and things like that, it's harmful to them also. So we don't want to do that to the individual or put them in that position. So if you have questions, it's best to come and let's talk it through prior to engaging the person, just to make sure we get it right. Because there are things we can do to help make that determination. There might be the way you answer a question, how we can justify the answer or explain the situation that can make one work over the other. So please feel free to call us anytime you're hiring someone. And usually the independent contractor, it's a temporary thing. They're coming in to do one specific thing for you. They're not going to be on your payroll for an extended period of time. And they pretty much work independently. So just talk to us, and we're happy to help you with that.
I just want to add, back up just a second, one of the things in my notes that I wanted to make mention of is that there's child protection training that has to be done when you hire individuals who will be working with children under the age of 17. And Don, you're pretty familiar with that. So we don't always know. We know that Don and Daryl, I think, and maybe Tamara, I'm not sure if you go to schools or not, but we aren't really, in HR, we don't always really know what these people are going to be doing unless we have a really good job description. So we want to make sure that they have this child protection training as well. So it's maybe 50 minutes, I think, or 55 minutes long. It's actually SUNY's training at this point in time. And we just have a sign-in sheet usually for the group or the individual. We get some sort of verification that they've taken this training, we keep it in their file.
They would have to come in to do the training, or can they do it?
They can do it online.
And keep in mind with that also, that documents that we have a due process, that we've gone through our best efforts to ensure the safety of children. That doesn't guarantee that nothing's going to go wrong, but it certainly does help protect the individual, the child, the family. If in an awful situation where something could go wrong, we can at least show that we've done some due diligence to make sure that people know the right thing to do and are behaving appropriately.
Do you want me to come up, take a break?
Sure.
How am I, Peter?
Good.
Okay.
I'm at the break, I'm gonna put a little piece of tape on the floor.
Oh, that'd be great, yeah, we would appreciate that.
Okay, so which one's this one? So,
It's still an independent contractor. You can
is
do
it?
everything. Yeah.
It's just kind of a recap, really, of.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, it's, okay, yeah, it's similar, but it's really just talking about misclassifying with the independent contractor and exempt and non-exempt. We wanna make sure that, we do it right, because if not, it says here that we are liable for minimum wage and overtime violations, benefit coverage violations, unpaid employment taxes, and workers' compensation coverage. Okay, so student employees. In order for us to consider an employee a student, they have to be a full-time SUNY student during the semester that you hire them in, okay? So, let's see here. They need to be engaged in work related to their academic program, and they don't get paid time off and benefits. That some grad students, depending on the hours they work though, and also if they're salaried and not hourly, they are eligible for benefits. So we handle those cases a little differently than the undergrads who wouldn't be eligible for health insurance. For if you have a federal award, it's actually a different minimum wage than the New York State minimum wage. So those are things that we're really trying to crack down on. We did get audited, I think it was last year, because it was a blur, but you know, they were looking at that. They want to make sure that we're following the rules, so we have to be careful with that. Let's see, so 20 hours a week your students can work during the semester. Outside of the semester, during the breaks, they can work up to 40, just like anybody else. Chris already mentioned the all employees who are working with kids under the age of 17.
Stephanie, so let's stop there for a moment. So great conversation. So let's just say hypothetically with my grad student, we're getting ready to go into the holiday and she can work more than the 20 hours. Is there necessary paperwork? How does one go about doing that?
No, we're just kind of looking, we know, we have the calendar, you know, we know that usually as soon as the semester is over, we're gonna expect to see more time put in. You don't have to let us know, but you have to remember that, so a couple things. The timesheets for hourlies are a 2-week lag, okay? So you always have to make sure you have money in your budget. That's what we're looking at, right? Is there money in the budget to pay these students these additional hours? That's number one, okay? So they might be able to work 40 hours a week, but you better be able to cover it. So if not, if you have questions, you can call, Grants will help you with that, or we can. And then the other thing is, just we're keeping in mind that there is that 2-week lag. So even for, when you have a grant wrapping up, if that employee didn't turn in a time card because they're late, they forget students, you have to keep in mind that's outstanding hours for them. And so when we go to close out your grant, we need to make sure that those hours are paid for, because if not, we still have to pay for it. So even if it's 2 months later, you're gonna have to come up with the money to pay for that. So students, it's hard to keep them on schedule, but, it's important that you as a supervisor really try to keep in mind, did I receive their time card this week? Because it is a 2-week lag for them also, that if they get backed up, it's a really long time for them to go without being paid for the hours they're working. But yeah, so you can automatically, we don't need a form, as long as, the end date is still good for the overall employment, we kind of expect them to put more hours in.
Thank you.
Stephanie, does that include the summer also? They don't have to be enrolled in classes in
No,
the summer,
so
right?
I check the student status in the fall and the spring, okay? So, if you hired somebody, say, I wanna hire a student this summer. Well, okay, that's fine. I'm gonna look back to the fall and pull their file, or, ask them for it if they're at UB, cause I don't have access to those files. And then I'm going to say, okay, they were full-time, so I can consider them a student in the summertime. If they haven't been a student in the past, and I'm looking to the future. I just enrolled at Buffalo State for the fall, so here's my information, and this is the plan. Then we can bring them on as a student and by basing it off the fall. So I look, back or forward depending on the time period. But if it's a semester, I'm looking at directly that semester that we're in.
So how does graduation play into that?
So usually, okay, I'm not checking if someone you know what I mean, I can't tell if someone graduated. If you're telling me they graduated, we change their classification right away. So, but I won't know that, I don't know until the fall. So it's pretty much a conversation, this person's graduating, I'm planning on changing them to, a regular employee. Obviously, that's a higher fringe for you guys, but, we have to follow the rules, so,
So they have to change, if
They
they
have-
graduated, they have to
Yeah.
change even though they
yeah.
just graduated.
Unless there's, a lot of kids go on to grad school, or whatever, so if that's the plan, we can kinda see if they've enrolled, if they have an acceptance. I mean, I'm not just like, no, you know what I mean, but usually it's a conversation and I try to see what's out there, what their plan is. Or if there's nothing and they're done and they're in the workforce, like a regular employee, then we would change it for the summer. But we don't change it if they're a junior and planning on going to college in the, fall. Any questions about that kind of stuff?
Tamira, is your grad student hourly?
I'm sorry?
Is your grad student hourly? Is it?
Yes, she
Yeah.
is.
You probably should take this one.
So I am basically the time card police.
Yep.
And especially, in particular for hourly students, or hourly employees rather, it's important that you respond in a timely fashion to their time cards, because they don't get paid unless we get an approved time card. So, but we also want you to be sure that you've reviewed the time card, and you don't just approve it so that we pay, because we're gonna pay based upon what you approved. And if we don't always have the time to review each time card, to make sure that we don't have any questions. So it's incumbent upon you to review before you approve. One of the things to look for the hourlies, as I said before, is that they take their lunch after 6 hours worked. Let's see, I'm trying to think of some of the other funky things. Probably not, that's probably it with the hourlies, but please be sure to take a look at those time cards as they come in, because these students, hourly employees, are looking for pay, and if we don't have that time card, we can't payment. So for example, this Friday is a payday. Payroll ran last night, so if a time card got approved today, they won't be paid until the next payday, which is November 10th. So, because of that 2-week lag time, they could be 4 weeks out. So it's really important for, in particular, our hourly people that you do it timely. For the other employees who have accruals, we want them to use their vacation time. It does have to be approved in advance. It's for their rest and relaxation. As we know, they work so hard. But, you do have that latitude to approve. I think it has to be submitted 24 hours in advance. But I know that there's situations where, they want to take vacation day and something sudden came up, and so it's really up to your discretion to approve the vacation time. And for our exempt employees, if it's a full day, they just put a 1 on their time card. If it's a partial day, it's gotta be a 0.25, 0.5, 0.75 on the day that they took their vacation. And we do not need any reason for vacation time off. For paid time off for sick, they do have to put in a reason, and there's a plethora of reasons. It could be just the employee illness or injury. It could be employee medical appointment. It could be for family illness. It could be for FMLA. So there's a lot, and it's probably going to be an expanding list as the New York State paid leave comes into effect and that sort of thing. So you should have a reason whenever you're looking at sick time off. The other thing I want to mention, and also the 5 or more days, then they would need a return to work note. So because these timesheets in particular for exempt employees there's such a lag time, I'm not seeing that time off until they submit their time card. So when you know someone's gonna be out 5 or more days, call HR, because it could be a situation where we need to send them family medical leave papers. It could be a situation where I need to send disability paperwork. It could be now a situation after January 1st where I need to send New York State paid family leave paperwork. So there's a lot of requirements attached to an employee being off for 5 or more sick days. The other one is the family sick bereavement. For family illness, which includes bereavement, employees are allowed to use up to 5 sick days per calendar year. So, for example, we had someone who was off on bereavement and they took like 10 days, and then throughout the year they took some family illness days and they exceeded those 15. Well, I can't find that out until down the road. And so then I'm going back and having to ask them how they want to charge their additional time. And if it's an exempt employee, basically they have vacation time to charge. Or if they have floating holiday time, they could charge that. For non-exempt employees, they may choose to take personal time for it, floating holiday, or the vacation. But I know it sounds harsh, and there's been supervisors who have said, they really needed this additional time, and I said, well, unfortunately, the policy says they're allowed up to 15 days for the family illness or bereavement, and so that they've maxed that out. So there's a lot of policies that come into play that you may not be familiar with that I'm catching up with on the back end. And if I make any change to any kind of time card, whether it be exempt, non-exempt, or hourly, you always will receive a paper copy with the change on it, as well as the employee. So just to keep you apprised of what's going on with that. And PTO, personal, is supposed to be for pressing personal business. Things, I think some of the examples were for appointments with lawyers or something like that, but I don't know, pressing, personal, it's really up to your discretion, I think. Any questions on use of accruals or?
One thing I was thinking is, I'm wondering if it's on our website, actually, I don't know, but does everyone have access to our payroll calendar? I think that's really important. Well, I know the calendars are on our website, but we only have certain days, every pay period for payroll to run and for time cards and that kind of stuff, so it's important to become familiar with that. If there's a holiday, we might only have Monday through Friday instead of, 7 days, like we normally have, so if you do want access to that, let us know, and we can get that to you.
Yeah, the production calendar is on the RF
Right.
website,
I don't know if they would know to look for that
Probably
specifically
not.
by search, but
It's easier to call us.
it is, yeah.
So,
We do try and send out communication when the payroll's
Yes.
closing early,
yeah.
to all the PIs, so.
Okay, my fave, family medical leave.
Yay.
So employees, there's certain eligibility requirements. One is you have to have a year of service and at least 1,250 hours in the 12 months prior to requesting the FMLA. The employees can be out with an illness or to care for a family member for more than 3 consecutive calendar days. That includes weekends. It's an unpaid job protection, and employees can use accruals. So you can see how there's time constraints with all of these leaves, the FMLA, and I mentioned the New York State Paid Family Leave, which will come into play January 1st. And so the sooner we are aware of the situation, the sooner we can start putting out information to the employee so the employee can make certain decisions as well. It can be for the birth or placement of a child, serious health condition, illness, injury, impairment, or physical and mental condition involving inpatient care or continuing treatment by a healthcare provider. It can be for a military family leave, and again, we want you to call HR.
Before you
Yes.
launch into that, can I just say one thing?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Because I get to do a lot of employee relations campus-wide, I work with Donna on the issues that you have here. There is a definite correlation between people being out on leave, performance issues, and supervisors wanting to get rid of people during their protected leave time. And it's not a coincidence, I've been in HR a long time, but I think the most important thing that we can just emphasize is that as soon as we can put an employee on family medical leave or know about their health condition, the sooner we can get them back to work. And so it's a transition period, but it's when we as supervisors aren't notifying HR, the paperwork doesn't go out, and then they get a lawyer, and then it gets really messy. And in my experience, if we just, as managers, understood that the clock is ticking, and to just get them the paperwork that they need, they'll be back to work sooner. I know you've seen this, right, where you'll talk to somebody and they'll say, well, so-and-so, guess what, their performance is terrible. And that's maybe the first time you're hearing it, and now they're on protected leave. And you can't let somebody go when they're on leave, and you certainly can't let somebody go the day they come back. They have to have comparable position with comparable pay, and what it means is that we were too chicken to deal with the performance issues before they went out on leave. So there's just this synergy around all of this that I just hope, as we get into the employee relations piece later on, you'll understand that it's typically around leaves, around people. Does anybody else experience that as a manager, seen that? When people go out on leave, there seems to be a lot of discussion about letting them go or reprimanding them when they get back. And that's just because we didn't communicate early enough, I think, on some of these issues.
So the leave can be indefinite, like,
Okay, so family medical leave is a maximum of 12 weeks.
okay,
Currently in a rolling forward period. That will be changing come January 1st. It'll be back 12 months. And there'll be a time period where we'll be looking at both until we can actually transition everybody to the new way of processing these. But, so one of the toughest things with family medical leave is intermittent FMLA. where they maybe need to go out for a doctor's appointment, leave at 2 o'clock every Tuesday or something. And that all counts against their FMLA time, as long as it's an approved FMLA. Okay?
But employees do wonder, and you can't blame them, is this indefinite? Can I stay out forever?
Right.
And, you know, I mean, heck, who wouldn't want to do that? But, so we do have some protections, you know, around how long people can stay out, but we really try to work with the employee to make this, you know, maximize their return back and minimize the hardship in your department of having somebody out for so long. So it's, you know, this balance of trying to do both. Now, with the paid family leave act, and that's just in New York State right now, it's gonna add a little wrinkle to it. And I'll let you describe
I
that.
just want to add to that, I think employees are more anxious to return to work if they haven't lost touch with us. So while they're out, I'm talking with them periodically and, you know, finding out how they're doing, you know, what's going on, when's your next doctor's appointment, how are you feeling, that sort of thing. So I think that goes a long way in expediting or speeding up their return to work. So, yes.
So if it's intermittent, does the employee have to show proof that he or she went to the doctor, or is it just?
No, because they've filed their FMLA paperwork, and we've designated that time off as FMLA.
Okay, so it's just.
Yeah, they should indicate to you, I'm gonna be off due to FMLA or something like that, and you should see that on their time card as well, because that's how I'm tracking it.
Well, really, managers don't necessarily need to know the details of that.
No, not at
Human
all.
Resources gets the doctor's
Right.
notes.
Yep,
Yep.
yep. In fact, you're better off not getting into,
Yeah.
you know, because you're dealing with them on a different level, and so, yeah. So, New York State paid family leave will take effect January 1st. It's a rider actually to our New York State disability insurance, and it's paid for by employees, so all employees will, unless they waive it, will be contributing to this. And for the most part, it's a maximum of $1.65 per week right now. And then the benefit is starting at 8 weeks, and it goes up each year. I forget how many, if it's 2 weeks a year, I think, up to, I think, 12. So every year it'll be increasing the benefit, or the time that they can be off and be paid. This is a paid leave, unlike FMLA. It does provide job protection and income replacement to eligible employees for their time off to care for a seriously ill family member. And the definition of family member here is a little different than under FMLA. It's a little broader. It can be for a spouse, domestic partner, child, parent, parent-in-law, grandparent, grandchild. It's also for bonding with a newborn, adopted or foster child in the first 12 months after birth or placement, or to attend to family issues related to a qualifying military deployment. So it's similar but different from FMLA. So now we have a kind of three-prong for certain situations when it's the employee illness, and it could be New York State disability. It could be New York State paid family leave. It can be New York State disability and FMLA concurrent, and FMLA paid family leave concurrent. So again, that's another reason why we need to get all of the paperwork in, not only for our situation on filing claims, but so that the employee can decide what's the best option for them. And that will depend on, in this situation with bonding or birth of a child, they want all the time off that they can get, or they may be interested in money. You know, how much income can I replace my time off with? So they may decide I want to use my New York State paid family leave instead of using my FMLA, although we're going to do some concurrent charging of time, but they basically, would have up to 12 months, and it does not have to be continuous. So you could be looking at a situation where a new mom says, well, I would like, you know, to have a reduced schedule, I'd like to take every Friday off for bonding purposes. So, you know, it's gonna be a very mushy, situation going forward. Yes?
And I just wanted to make you aware that we'll have a training on this, a Learning Tuesday program on December 12th, that can help prepare you. That, communication will go to all RF employees and can be forwarded to anyone else, by your team here that you'd like to attend, for folks that, you know, manage, that aren't RF employees, that manage the ones that are. So, that'll be a live stream broadcast. You can ask questions during it, so you can look forward to that.
Yeah, the first deduction is gonna be December 8th.
December 8th.
So for, any employee, all of our current employees will see that deduction, so there's probably gonna be, some questions, so you can.
I think a letter.
It's
I just
on-
signed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the communication is on its way out, right?
And there's also a letter going to you folks as supervisors, PIs, hopefully explaining it.
It's complicated.
It
It is so
It's
complicated.
gonna be a lot of extra
Yeah.
work.
We spent, how many hours? 3 hours talking about it?
Yes.
So, okay. In addition to a lot of phone calls. So the central office has been real busy on this one. Another excellent reason that we need very good job descriptions are for job accommodations. So once an employee thinks that they're able to come back to work, they may not be able to come to work full duty. So as Stephanie mentioned, you know, if they're required to lift 40 pounds, well, then we have to determine, is that an essential function of that position, or can we make some sort of an accommodation for that individual? And we would definitely go right to the job description and find out what does this person do? What are these essential functions? And I know I've worked with some people in this room, I think, and returning people to work with the job accommodations. So it really is kind of a conversation. There's forms, there's always forms to be filled out by, you know, medical people and the employee and that sort of thing. But we bump the information up against their job description. If the doctor says, you know, they can only work part-time, they can only work 4 hours a day, then we have to decide, well, you know, can we accommodate this person? Which we probably can, but maybe not always. But we would go to the job description. Then we would have conversations with the supervisor and the employee and try to work through how we can bring this person back to work, and take into account any work restrictions they may have. And we've been pretty successful at it, I think. We haven't had a whole ton, we're a smaller campus, but we have had a number of job accommodations through the past 10 years since I've been here. So, we want to err on the side of caution. If you're not sure whether an employee has requested an accommodation, you should ask the employee to clarify what is being requested and why. And as soon as you think that, you know, an accommodation is being requested, give HR a call and we'll send out some formal paperwork to the employee with some forms, and we'll get, you know, the information in and then decide where we need to go from there. And it doesn't have to be a return to work from a leave either. It could be, you know, they hurt themselves and this is a temporary situation. So be aware that it doesn't necessarily have to be returning from a leave. Any questions on accommodations? So, since you're all up to speed on this is a little quiz. An employee tells her supervisor, I'm having trouble getting to work at my scheduled starting time because of medical treatments I'm undergoing. Is this an accommodation request? Anybody?
Yes.
Is it a reasonable accommodation request?
Yep.
I agree. An employee tells his supervisor, I need 6 weeks off to get treatment for a back problem. Reasonable accommodation request?
a medical leave than a termination.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable, he's probably gonna go out on disability, I think, but, yeah. It's reasonable. A new employee who uses a wheelchair informs the employer that her wheelchair cannot fit under the desk in her office. Is this a request? Accommodation request? Definitely is. An employee tells his supervisor that he would like a new chair because his present one is uncomfortable. Good luck. No, it's, that's not a. Maybe it's reasonable. I wouldn't say it's an accommodation. I mean, if the chair's uncomfortable, give him a different chair, right?
It's a conversation, it's being able to talk to your
Exactly.
employees, and really just, trying to help to make them comfortable so they're performing like they should be, right?
So if someone asks for a buried desk, do we, because there's no proof that the back hurts, but this.
So that would, to my way of thinking, that is an accommodation request. So I would begin the process. I would send them a letter, and then there's a form for the employee to fill out and a form for their physician or
Healthcare provider, yeah.
Healthcare provider.
And then the buried desk would come out of the budget, that's.
Yes.
No, it will not come out of the state budget.
A
Okay, good to know.
A sponsored, like,
Okay.
state ed budget, you would, grants or pre-award would ask for, and most likely, it's not gonna get approved, so then it would come from campus, or, your level, or something like that. It's not gonna come out of your sponsored project budget.
A lot of the times we say, oh, we can do things, and then I'm like, oh no, I really need to check with grants or pre-award because,
Right. And there's a difference between, we have a legal and moral responsibility to take care of certain issues. Just because the grant can't support it, because there's no benefit to the sponsor for that particular item, that doesn't mean that the campus does not have to work with the unit to find a solution to something that we're really required to provide. So if a wheelchair doesn't fit under a desk, you know what, that's something that has to be fixed. And however the campus supports that, we need to work with the campus to figure that out.
And that's sort of like on one end, but these stand-up units that everybody wants, it's very easy to get your healthcare provider to say, hey, yeah, you need that, so that is the balance
Right.
of what you're able to do, because I know we had a flurry of them at central office, and I was like, how can all these people have back trouble? And it was just that they prefer it, and so that is different than needing it, yeah. Can I just say one thing too about the first one there? So the individual who needs the accommodation for their schedule, clearly should be on intermittent leave on FMLA too, if they're getting medical treatments. And when we talk about intermittent leave, lots of people who are undergoing some sort of routine treatment may only need a Friday off every 2 weeks, and then they go back to work. So those are the more common intermittent leaves that we see. When we get into the Paid Family Leave Act, it's going to get harder. And it's going to be harder to deny these types of requests. So working with Human Resources is going to be the best thing. And every employer across New York State is dealing with this. Now, not on the state side, but on the not-for-profit, corporate side, everybody's dealing with this, how we're going to manage it. And it's going to really be bumpy. We anticipate the first quarter of the year. So hang on.
Yes.
It'll get better. Yeah.
So if you have an employee that has a long-standing chronic illness that is getting maybe intermittent but regular treatment, with FMLA, with it being intermittent, then can they apply every year for that, or how does that?
Yes.
Is there like a
Yes.
overall time period where that ends and they've maxed out and that's it, or?
Yeah, no, they have to submit updated medical documentation annually, which I generally will send to them maybe a month and a half before the end of that.
So the supervisor doesn't necessarily have to monitor?
No,
any of that, that's all done on
Nope.
Okay.
But the employee has a responsibility to talk with you
Yeah.
about what that day is and how work will get managed, and, the last thing you want is, as a supervisor, not to know that this is happening. And that does happen.
Chris, can I just add
Yeah.
one more thing? It's really important that you work with HR on any of these issues, simply because consistency is important. So what you do for one employee, you can't necessarily say no to another employee for the same thing if they have the same situation. You set precedents when you handle every particular issue. So it's really important to work with HR to make sure that you're not setting a precedent that you don't want to carry forth for an undetermined period of time for that employee or multiple employees, and that you are treating everybody fairly and consistently. What's good for one is normally good for the other, so you have to think about how those affect your unit, and what's in the best interest for everybody. So I strongly encourage, anytime any of these issues come up, talk with HR sooner than later, so they can help guide you through the process. Is this me?
I think it is.
I don't think either one of them wanna discuss this.
Not really.
So we're not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but this is to do with your effort certifications. These are required on any federal funds, any federal or federal flow-through grants. All employees paid from that grant are required to every semester, submit an effort report. It's a federal requirement. We don't have a choice. We cannot waive it. We cannot say you don't need to do it. We cannot say, okay, don't worry about it. You need to complete them. All employees need to complete them. And they have to be submitted timely. They are audited every year. They come out, they talk to the employee, they randomly select forms and go to the individuals and say, what did you work on in May of 2017? Did you work, did you work on this project? Did you work on that one? Were you 50? They will actually talk to the individual employees to make sure that the form that they've signed and their supervisor has signed is correct. So it's really important that there's an understanding. If you have questions, if you don't understand the form or the information on it, we have staff in the grants department who can tell you what the appointment, what the lines reflect, what it actually means. They don't make a lot of sense. Because if you work on a grant 10% of the time, when you get the form for the spring semester, it could say you worked 10.43 or 8.22, because it takes the number of days in that semester, calculates out that number of days for the whole year, then takes 10% of that time for those number of days, and it doesn't ever come out to 10% or 20% or 50%. It might come out to 100% if you have one line and one appointment, but they're not easy to decipher. But they will ask you if you understood what it meant, and did you actually work on the accounts that are reflected there. So that's the important part, that the account numbers are correct, that you actually know the project, and that it reflects, the 10.2 or the 15.8, that can be a little flexible. They're not, going to go into unless it's, grossly incorrect. But they are going to expect you to know where you worked on and when. And they also are going to expect these to be submitted timely. So it really is critical to all federal research that these effort certs are submitted timely. They come out to you electronically via email. You go into the electronic system and certify them. You can certify them for your employees, or you can choose your employees to certify their own. They do expect somebody with first-hand knowledge of the work being done to be the certifier on the form. So it's up to you on how you want to look at it, but know that they are probably, if they audit, are going to talk to both of you, the employee and the supervisor. So They're not easy, they're not fun, they're a pain in everybody's neck, but we have no choice. So we try and help you with them, we will help you as much as we can. But I just wanted everybody to know the importance that when you get federal money, this is part of that package that comes with the money. So any questions on these?
So how do you know if you've completed it? Because I'm like, all right, we're new to the game here. I know I did do something with Dale, and I came into the office and I checked off, and it, had, again, Janine's name, another student, so I did that, and then I also had to do the conflict of interest,
Yes.
which was beautiful, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, right. So, but again, how can one, PI go in to make sure that I've done, if it has to be done each semester, the ecert?
Right. So you will get an email when they're ready to be certified. Okay, you will get an email from the system that says your ecert's out here. You need to certify these. The system will continue to send you emails until you complete it. So you will get a reminder, it's due, it's past due, it's past due, it's past due. After it gets to a certain point, I start sending emails, Dale sends emails, we'll eventually call you up. I don't know, and that's a good question, if you give us a confirmation when you've done it, but if you haven't done it, you will continue to receive messages regarding it. Okay? So, and you also brought up the COI, which we now have a new federal system for that, and I didn't put that on here. But that also is a requirement for anybody who receives any federal flow-through New York State funding. You must complete a conflict of interest certification annually. They used to be done whenever your annual time period came up from your first submission of a federal proposal. Now, the system sends them out once a year in November. If you submit a federal proposal, you will get a reminder that you now have to look at it and make sure it's current. So you might have to go in and update it, or just say, okay, I looked at it, it's current. It saves your information. You don't have to start from scratch. Once you do it, the information is stored in there. So all you have to do is bring it up either at the time of the new submission or at the next year. Look at the information. If it's still appropriate and correct, you just have to resubmit it. If you have to change it, you can go in and just edit the information that's in there and then submit the new form. We're working with people now. You do have to take a conflict of interest training, which is available also electronically in the city program. I sent out a lot of reminders yesterday to people that they're due by, I think, November 15th. More than happy to sit with you, walk you through the process, anything we can do to help with that. A lot of people say, I don't want to be bothered doing it. If you want to spend your federal money, you have to do it. And you could be a co-PI, you could be a key personnel, not even a PI, but play a key role in a grant and assigned a key role. You have to do it in order for those funds to be spent. So we'll be working closely with everybody as the 15th gets closer to help you try and get those submitted. Any questions on that one? Okay. We also have the new IRB electronic system. I don't know if anybody used that yet. So far that's going very well. People seem to, once they get in there and do it, people are happy with it. It's a lot easier than doing paper and trying to change paper and trying to fix paper. So that also, but it's just learning these new systems. The forms can all be routed electronically. You don't have to pass paper around. You submit it. It goes to the IRB review board. It goes wherever it needs to be approved. It's all handled seamlessly behind the scenes. So we're finding it, once people get in there and use it, they are liking it. I'm not going to guarantee that it's 100% perfect because no new system ever is, but we are working through those bugs as they come up. So thank you for your patience with that. Yes?
COI and IRB come from CLIck.
Yes.
Email address is click something, right?
Yes.
ecert comes from?
ecert.
Okay. Because some people are just assuming it's spam.
Right.
I've gotten some emails recently saying, I received this, what is this? So, like HR said, call us or forward the email to somebody, whether it's your grants manager, pre-award, just Donna, just forward the email if you're unsure of what you're receiving, because there are a lot of things that are rolling out right now that you're responsible for. And some people get it and some people don't. It depends on who your sponsor is.
Okay, thank you.